Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lunch for the Soul. I am Melissa Wilson, live in my newsroom in Houston, Texas, in our Fox 26 studios. So happy to welcome you here today. I'm morning news anchor here at Fox, but also a medical reporter. And with that job, I get to meet some of the most interesting people with the most incredible stories and testimonies to share. And boy, that is certainly the story today. I can't wait to introduce you to our guests. I'm going to bring them up right now so we can just get right to this. Hello, welcome, Franklin and Nina. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's such an honor to be able to share your story. Franklin, you have a dramatic one, and I've gotten to talk to you extensively about it. And this is the first time I'm really getting to talk to Nina about it. So welcome. I'm really happy you're here.
Thank you.
All right, so let's just get right to the story and talk about what started happening. Franklin, you were only 18 years old when you started having a very dramatic symptom. Tell us what happened that first time.
Absolutely. So I was in my native state of Florida, working on a golf course prior to attending my freshman year at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. And I was working as a golf caddy, and I remember I was out for 18 holes with one of the golfers, and then came in. It was a hot day, and I remember, unloading his golf clubs, and then really feeling, almost like shortness of breath, not really understanding, almost disoriented. And then I remember that I felt my chest, because I was like, wait, it feels like my heart is racing. I touch my chest, and I'm physically feeling my heart beating out of my chest. Everything starts spinning. I pass out, and the next time I wake up, I'm in the hospital, with every kind of monitor hooked up to me. Doctors probably from the entire hospital inside the room, trying to help me understand what's going on. It was a very grueling experience.
And what an absolute journey it's been. So they diagnosed you with atrial fibrillation. A lot of people just know it as AFib. It's a lot easier to say, right?
Yes.
But yours came from a genetic mutation that you and your sister both got from your dad. But my goodness, it led to some dramatic episodes.
Absolutely.
And a lot more dramatic than a lot of people experience, right? Like some people may say, my heart feels like it's fluttering, or I lost my breath for a moment, but not what you were experiencing, which
Not
is
at all.
passing out.
Yes. So essentially what happens is that with atrial fibrillation, for those who may not know, is there's electrical currents that happen in the atrium in the heart. And for me, and I didn't know this at the time, but thankfully, cold water is what got me to understand this, is that the esophagus is next to the atrium, which can set off irregular electrical charges, which is what actually triggered my atrial fibrillation. So where most people might say, I'm stressed or I'm running, and you stop and then your heart's racing. For me, I could be still sleeping. There have been times where I was asleep and I was woken up due to the palpitation. So it was definitely something that was, you never know when it's coming. You never know how severe it's going to be. So it's really a chance every time it happens.
Yeah, that just had to be so overwhelming. Okay, Nina, let's bring you into this conversation. So luckily, your fiance got a procedure last year, and we'll get to that in a moment at Memorial Hermann, which it sounds like a life changer to me. But being someone who loves him with all his heart, as you do, I'm sure this has been a little bit of a difficult journey. How many times have you seen him go through this before he had that procedure?
I'm not sure, probably around 5 times, and every time it's different. We've lived in New York, Florida, now Texas, and the experience has been that no matter where we are, we're always in a new place, we're always around new doctors, we're always in a new hospital, and the challenge is explaining to the doctors and convincing them that we already know what he needs. And it's really refreshing now that we have not really needed to be going to the hospital, at least for the last year, since the procedure he had.
That has to be such a relief. And I'll talk to you. Sorry, while he had to hop up for a moment there. As his fiance, I'm sure you've been busy getting everything ready for your future. What has it been like thinking about that now that he has had that procedure? Is life just so much easier for you two? The stress less for you?
It's definitely easier. It's good to know that he could be at the gym. He can drink some water of whatever temperature and, finish his workout happily rather than.
And not have to worry about that. That's huge. Now, let's talk about what you did leading up to that procedure. So you tried all kinds of medications. you
Yes.
tried cardio versions, which you can go into that, where they would put you to sleep and shock your heart.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could.
It was a lot for you to go through.
Yeah.
What was all that like?
Yes, and I mean, when I think of it from the beginning, again, from that initial onset, I went to college 2 months later. And I can always remember that in the very beginning, it was, again, as Nina just stated, for me being by myself in college, trying to convince doctors in a different state, mind you, as a 19-year-old at the time,
Yeah.
hey, I have this. I know it happened in the summer. It hasn't happened since. But we're looking at stuff. What happened is, because I was in Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, I actually was commuting to Philadelphia for the University of Pennsylvania Hospital, where I was the only teenager seen in the entire cardiac unit for this situation at that time. So when you talk about going for, we did a heart study, right, which is they go in through, take catheters through your groin, go up and try and replicate the situation, and then try and see through medication what they can do to stop it. I went through, EP studies, that's the official name of it in the hospital. That didn't discover anything. They were just like, we've done everything we can. You're just going to have to operate with a pill in the pocket technique, which is metoprolol is one of the medications they use to try and regulate the heart rate. So what would happen is I have an episode, they tell me to take one pill, wait 2 hours, take another pill, wait 2 hours. And if that doesn't work, then go to the emergency room. But you can probably imagine, as a college student, I didn't have the time to say, let me stop and wait and not go to class and not do homework.
Especially as a soccer player too, when you were feeling those symptoms on the field, it was so much.
It was bad.
I'm so thankful you're talking about this, because it is AFib Awareness Month. And there are so many people who not only have it right now, but by 2030, 12 million people are expected to be diagnosed. So I think if we can have it in our back of the mind, what those symptoms look like, what you need to do, what the treatment's like. And your doctor at Memorial Hermann was telling me how amazed he is at you and how you've been able to keep up a normal life considering all you've been through as a bodybuilder. We take a look at some of these photos here, and we can see the amount of time, the energy, the passion you put into this. How have you dealt with your heart condition and still been able to work out at the extreme levels it takes to, quite frankly, look like this? I mean, this is a lot of hard work.
Thank you. No, it's funny because this is probably where I will talk about faith first, right? Is that, I remember when I was first diagnosed and I came home that first year, and I was afraid of, maybe will I be able to complete college? Will I be able to do anything like a normal person? I distinctly remember in New York, and this was obviously after I graduated, I had a doctor tell me that I would never be able to lift over 10 pounds again for the rest of my life. And Nina, you were there for that. Yes. Like the doctor, he said, Franklin, this is probably going to break your heart, but you'll never be able to lift probably more than 10 pounds. You won't be able to do any heavy lifting like boxes off the floor. And at that time I was 26, 27. And I'm sitting there thinking, but what? How will I function? I mean, people are seeing the photos. Like, I was not to this degree, but I was in very good shape. I had no idea how I was going to continue, and much less, knowing Nina, I was afraid of what she'd have to go through continuously. And I remember telling my parents, like, look, you know what? I'm done with the medicine. I'm done with the rat race of not knowing what's going on. If it kills me, it kills me. I remember definitively saying that in front of my family. And it was my sister at the time. She wasn't yet diagnosed. And she said, well, if you give up, what are the rest of us going to do? Who are we going to have as a big brother, right? And,
oh my goodness.
And I remember then my mom said, look, you need to turn to God. You need to remember why you're here. Everything happens for a reason. Prayer is going to work for you. You just have to see what can be. And at that time, I think it was a combination of just having no answers, not really understanding what's going on, and just seeing no light at the end of the tunnel, where it's like, you know what? I might as well just live my life like I'm not going to make it past 30, and just do what I want and live the way I want. And I'm glad that I had family members, and not to mention Nina at the time we were in New York. And I remember it was sort of around the time that Nina, she took me to the church that she was going to, because she's a New York native, right? She understood things around the city. And I remember that one time, and I was like, wow, like it's been a while since I've been to church, but it just seemed to happen at the right time, And so prayer for me has been super powerful. we talk about symptoms to look for. Some people think heart racing, or shortness of breath, dizziness, a bit of deliriousness, almost feeling like you've been running a marathon, but you're standing still. The only problem is with AFib is that some people are symptomatic and others are asymptomatic. And that's for those who are symptomatic, for example, like my sister and my father, it's very difficult for them to even know when they're in something until they feel so physically weak that they're like, yeah, very clearly something's going on. For me, I can tell instantly. I think I spoke to you about it before, Melissa. It literally feels like the hardest thud in the chest.
Yeah.
And then it's palpitations for hours. I mean, the longest episode I had lasted 2 days. And the reason I didn't go to the hospital is because I had a final and I couldn't go to the hospital or else I'd miss my final. And in the morning of the final, I was like, you know what? I can't do this. I can't take the exam like this. I woke up on the way to the hospital. My heart rate returned to sinus rhythm. It's the only time out of 25 plus cardioversions or AFib episodes that I've been in where I've self cardioverted back to sinus rhythm.
Oh my goodness! Out of all those times.
Yeah, that was one time, but every other time, as you can imagine. So out of the 25 plus, there have been 2 times where I haven't been cardioverted, but every other time, which is more than 25, I've gone under the cardioversion, which involves now, I'm pretty sure people remember the old movies where you take 2 paddles, rub them together and place it on someone's chest. But now with modern medicine, they're putting 1 pad over your heart, 1 on the, diagonal position on your back. They're giving you the sedative to, put you out. And then they shock you, right? Like for me, they're always telling you to count back from 100. And I'm trying to say, I'm going to stay coherent. I'm going to stay with them. And of course, always lose consciousness. But it's really the people like Nina, like my father, who's been there at times where I've been cardioverted, who hear what happened when I'm completely gone, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, when you think of everything that goes into it, we're very blessed to be where we are today. Yeah. I'm very blessed to have Nina because there's been times where things for me have looked very dark. And times where I don't think that I'm going to, why take the medicine if they, for example, there's medication I'm on today where they tell me that if I take this, I'm 34 today. If I were to take this until I was 50, there's they said more than a 90% chance that the current medication that I'm taking will no longer work to sustain anything, which is why the ablation that I had last year was so vital.
Yeah, that was huge. I want to remind everybody who might be joining us either on our website or through YouTube or Facebook that you can ask questions. So you can go into the comment section. Please ask questions if you have any of them. I'm going to call you, Franklin, an expert. After all, you've been through the last 15 years about AFib. So if you guys have anything to ask, please feel free to do that. So let's talk about that. So you kept trying medications. You kept thinking that, something would stop it from happening. Nothing ever did. And that's when you went to Memorial Hermann and the Texas Medical Center. You found an incredible doctor, and you've been free of this for almost a year, right?
Almost a year, yes. In October, November 4th will be 1 year episode free. And I've never, since I was diagnosed at 18, I've never gone a year without an episode. So if this is the first year that happens, will be really, I'll be over the moon. It will probably have a celebration on November 4th.
And you deserve that for sure. Well, here we are. You invited my photographer, Rodney I, into your home, and we certainly enjoyed coming there and talking to you. And we talked about some pretty serious stuff, including your future. So obviously you were head over heels in love. And there you and Nina are with your precious dog. What's your dog's name?
Pharaoh.
Look at that. Lovely. And then and there's your baby as a puppy.
Yes.
Tell me what your plans are for the future, because you've really thought about having children together someday and what that looks like. And you've done some research. Tell me what you found out.
Yeah. So in regards to research, we found IVF would be the most pertinent thing to be able to predict whether that gene is present in an embryo. So for us, it seems that we have the option, though it is expensive, we have the option of IVF as a potential solution to that going forward.
And so it's very expensive, right? Yeah. So you're just sort of putting that in your plan just in case, because they can actually just eliminate that. So you'll never pass it on.
Absolutely.
Wow. And Nina, do you feel that that's a strong plan for you guys? Do you feel like that would be a smart thing to do?
Yeah, look, I mean, we all have things that we don't want to pass on to our kids. I think for Franklin, his heart condition is definitely one of them. If IVF would make it so that my kids could only get his knees, we would definitely do that as well. Whatever will bring the most healthy, capable children into the world.
Oh, you guys are such a lovely couple, and I love just your spirit about you and your story, and it's just incredible. For anybody who's going through something tough like this, what would you all say to remember that you can go back to faith, and sometimes when you do go back into the church, it can answer a whole lot of questions for you?
Absolutely. And I think that prayer is just super powerful because it gives you an opportunity to step back and let someone else take the wheel for you, right? Like, I think that sometimes the stress of thinking of all that you have to do, if I had to consolidate everything I explained to you to say I have to handle it by myself, it's not necessarily possible. So faith for us has been just a shining light to be able to say, we know that there's a higher power that can help us.
How about for you, Nina? Has it helped you as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not what Franklin has gone through. I know you mentioned there will be 12 million people diagnosed, but it for a very long time has felt very lonely. It's something that is, unheard of, and that a lot of doctors don't have answers to. So it's great to turn to our faith to really, have that support when we haven't had it.
Yeah, and then I think it's hard too because, like you said, Franklin, you were the only teen on that floor. And then when I talked to your doctor about it, he said the average age is 65 of AFib. So it's you were sort of a little bit on your own, and that it doesn't happen that often. Although J.J. Watt, the Houston Texans former player, came out last year talking about it, and that he had it, and he felt like it was sidelining him. He was concerned about it as well, and so we know it happens younger. But when it isn't a genetic mutation like your doctor told me it can happen from too much alcohol, certainly from drugs, but just from some medications that people take. It can come from stress. So there are all kinds of indicators of what can cause it when it's not genetic, like what you guys did. But that's when I think this conversation comes into play for people to know what those common denominators are, and maybe tweak the lifestyle a little bit so you're not having to deal with the condition and possibly undergo heart surgery, right?
Exactly. That is, I mean, that's the goal for me. When it happened to me, I was not one of those preteen drinkers or partying with friends. Like, I lived a very regimented,
we can tell how regimented you are, Franklin. You don't have to convince us. We can tell.
So literally, when you go through that, I knew that those weren't the things that were going to stop me. So or affect me negatively. So when this really happened, we took it very seriously, and I'm thankful that my parents were really willing to do anything, right? Like, they were like, no, we're going to find the best hospital that you can go to for cardiology, and that's what they did. And I'm so thankful. And then years later, I get to meet someone who can understand, just as she said, that there are ailments that happen everywhere, and she's been nothing but supportive, right? And I'm sure some people would see that for me and say, yes, she's a winner. Thankfully, we know that, and I think for me, it's just been a godsend. And we're here in Texas now, and we're thriving. You can see I'm wearing a formal shirt, and she's wearing a t-shirt. She works from home. I'm always in the office, but through faith, through everything we've been through, we always find a way to make things work, for us and for our family, our
body. And I feel like when you have a condition like this, it'd be easy to just curl up in a ball and feel sorry for yourself. But we see you out snow skiing. We see you obviously working out so much to be able to pull off a beach picture like this. Like, who can do that? Very few people, especially somebody who has been diagnosed with a very serious heart condition. So kudos to you, Franklin. Just so proud to be able to meet you, to share your story. Nina, you guys are just a lovely couple. Thank you for sharing his journey with us and how you fall into all of it. And we just wish you nothing but good health from now on. And that is the reporter's demand today. Okay.
Thank you so much.
It's such an honor to see you both. All right. Take care of you. All right. The next time you win a championship, let us know. We'll do an update for you on Fox.
Will do.
Okay. I'm sure it's coming soon. Uh-huh. And I just want to remind you all, if you want to join us for Lunch for the Soul, it's every Wednesday. It's a cool place to be at 12:30. You know I love having you here. It means so much to me. We love you from Fox 26. Have a beautiful day, everyone. I'll see you back here next Wednesday. Same place, same time. Toodaloo.